Hello everyone, Wayne here from Rodney Illustrations, creator of the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot, published by US Games Systems. Peace and blessings. Today I'm reviewing A Formless Fire by Ike Baker.
To understand the world, you must first know yourself. But how do we discern what is real? Embark on this journey to discover more about your real potential. Uncover the mystery in the tarot.
A Formless Fire is an ambitious and comprehensive chronicle of the Western mystery tradition. It's well-researched, largely objective in tone, yet attentive to the living initiatory dimension of the tradition it documents. Published in 2024 by Tria Prima Press, it features an intriguing and evocative cover design by artist Travis Lawrence. The book opens with a powerful foreword by Jamie Paul Lamb, which describes the current state of the world as existing in a philosophical malaise, immediately inviting us to contemplate the value of the Western initiatic chain, and it really sets the tone for what follows. In A Formless Fire, Baker's focus is on individuals and systems that have actively participated in the transmission of the esoteric current. He believes historical context is just as important as the ideas and personalities themselves. As he puts it, an emphasis on the significance of understanding occult symbolism not as decoration, but as a key to the inner mechanics of these systems. The book follows what could be called a Rosicrucian timeline of philosophical and mystical currents, sometimes described as the primordial tradition. In his Silentium Post Clamores of 1617, Michael Meyer described Rosicrucianism as having arisen from a primordial tradition, saying, "Our origins are Egyptian, Brahminic, derived from the mysteries of Eleusis and Samothrace, the Magi of Persia, the Pythagoreans, and the Arabs." This is echoed in Baker's introduction, where he says, "Historical record makes repeated reference to this underlying philosophy being passed down from cultures considered ancient even in antiquity, primarily from the ancient Egyptians." Throughout the book, Baker steers clear of what he has termed speculative information, i.e., things like Atlantis, Lemuria, or Tiamat, and instead focuses primarily on what we have from recorded history, documenting the passage of philosophical thought from Mesopotamia and Egypt, chronicling how the current flows into Greece and Rome, then into the Arab world, the Renaissance, and eventually the Americas. And while we often imagine this as a straight line, Baker reminds us that in reality there's a great deal of overlap and concurrent activity. A central thread running through the work is the interconnectedness of disciplines, what Baker calls the classical occult sciences, or the esoteric quadrivium of astrology, alchemy, magic, and Kabbalah. He devotes individual chapters to each, showing how they overlap in philosophy, cosmology, and practice. He also emphasizes that the underlying structure of the Western tradition rests heavily on Platonic and Pythagorean philosophy, the foundation of Western esoteric systems of thought that remain so to this day. In Magic and the Mysteries, Baker points out that what we think of as magic today was once seen simply as a craft, an art, or a skill. He references the Greek magical papyri, describing a culture where people believed that they could exert control over invisible forces by knowing a thing's true name, even issuing threats to impose their will. This actually reminds me of a modern article claiming that people get better results by threatening AI. I'm not advocating either approach, but the parallel is striking. The chapter on astrology traces its roots from Mesopotamia and Egypt through the Islamic Golden Age to the astrological magic of the Picatrix. It covers talismanic magic, magic squares, and the planetary magic of orders like the Golden Dawn and Aurum Solis. In the Black Art, Baker traces a similar path with alchemy from Kemet, the Black Land, where alchemy and chemistry got its name, again through to Hellenistic Roman Egypt, highlighting the works of Zosimus, which Baker states bear a striking similarity to the craft degrees of Freemasonry in America. The chapter also includes commentary on the legend of Hermes Trismegistus before branching off into the Arab world, and from there into the Renaissance and into the Rosicrucian and Masonic currents of the 17th to 19th centuries, then touching on alchemical activity in the 20th century. He condenses an enormous amount of historical and practical material, personalities like Paracelsus and Fulcanelli, key treatises, stages of the alchemical work, and their astrological correspondences. Baker stresses the overlap between astrology and alchemy and the necessity of astrological knowledge for certain alchemical operations. In Spiritual Rebirth, the chapter on the Renaissance, Baker cites the research of Christophe Poncet, which makes a case for Marsilio Ficino encoding Platonic philosophy within early iterations of the Tarot de Marseille, which would make him the forefather or artificer, as Baker puts it, of modern tarot. When it comes to Rosicrucianism, Baker recounts the Fama Fraternitatis, the Confessio, and the Chemical Wedding. The wedding is a profound allegory, a story of initiation, transformation, and union of cosmic principles, and also possibly a metaphor for the primordial tradition itself. Baker also notes astronomical symbolism like the triple conjunction of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn in 1603 to 1604, observed by Kepler, and its possible resonance with the rise of the Rosicrucian manifestos. Beyond these, the book offers informative chapters on Kabbalah, the Goetia and Grimoire traditions, folk magic, and the Enochian magic of John Dee and Edward Kelly. It's structured so that you can read it by topic and that you don't necessarily have to go in a linear fashion. Throughout A Formless Fire, the emphasis is on continuity, correspondence, and transmission, how ancient ideas adapt yet remain recognizable. By blending historical detail, philosophical analysis, and symbolic insight, Baker offers a book that is both informative and evocative for the practicing esotericist. It closes with chapters on the occult revival of modern magic, documenting the transmission of currents from the 1700s to early 1900s, and a thoughtful afterword on academia, secularization, and modern approaches to magic. The afterword ties back beautifully to Jamie Paul Lamb's foreword, leaving the reader with a sense of responsibility to contribute to the resolution of these currents in wartime. The appendix contains a compact but useful set of practical exercises and correspondences. I've been recommending this book to anyone interested in the Western mysteries. It's an excellent research and reference resource, especially for new and intermediate seekers. Please note, I don't know Ike Baker personally, although I follow him on social media and subscribe to his Arcanum channel. This is not a paid promotion. I've had the book for several months and have been digesting it, and these are my thoughts on just a few of its aspects. If you found this review helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Peace and blessings.